Hi, I'm Haydn Christensen here at Bayberry Fresh. It's springtime and we're getting a lot of our crops going or continuing some of our crops into the summertime. Today I'm going to talk about some of the updates and upgrades I've done to my operation here this year. So one of the upgrades I did this year, most of my hoop houses have been more seasonal, kind of passive, heating and cooling more, especially these. So in order to extend the season, I installed some propane tanks and larger propane heaters on thermostats so that I can have a little bit more consistent and heating that can keep my temperatures up better in the nighttime versus smaller heaters. So that way I can start a little bit earlier and go a little bit later. So the next thing we'll show you is the greenhouse plastic, new greenhouse plastic I put on that will keep this heat in the greenhouse longer so it doesn't cost us too much. So one of my upgrades this spring is I put new double wall greenhouse plastic on both of these greenhouses or hoop houses. And I did that because I was using an older beat up layer of single layer of plastic before, and I had to roll up sides. So I went ahead and moved the sides down so I can seal up the whole greenhouse. And I did the double wall because it gives us this inflated air layer, which one obviously gives us a lot of insulation. So when we are heating, we're keeping more of that heat in for longer, keeping our tomato plants warmer. It also makes the structural integrity of the building better. It just firms everything up and keeps everything from moving in the wind. So that helps us to not blow the building down and keep the tomatoes more secure. So since I closed up the greenhouse sides and no longer have roll-up sides with this new plastic, well, I'll show you my greenhouse fans. So these are the greenhouse fans I installed this year. They're used fans I bought that the housing and the fans and everything used. I installed new motors on them, new thermostats, and hardwired them. I did just get these put in so they don't have a guard on them yet. They're supposed to have a guard on inside and out to keep things from getting into them. But these fans are sized appropriately to cool this sized greenhouse. They're about 21,000 CFM, so they'll suck all the air out of here in about a minute. So these do a really good job of keeping the tomatoes cool. The reason I did this upgrade and installed these fans is because before I had the roll-up sides, and roll-up sides are cheap and easy and great in some ways. You know, they require no power, but when your plants are small, if you have really hard wind, you have to really monitor them. You don't really have any good control of temperature. They're either all the way open or they're all the way closed or half, and if the sun comes out or something like that, the temperature can vary a lot. And then also in the summertime, when the plants get really big and say the wind's not blowing very much, the airflow through here really, you don't get a lot of airflow. So it can get really hot and humid and that sort of thing. Whereas the fan's on a thermostat, so I can keep the temperature range within a few degrees, and I'm also can always be sucking a lot of air through this greenhouse, and it's more controlled. So that way I can keep my plants cooler, keep my workers cooler, have a higher yield, make things more ergonomic and everything else. So on these tomato plants in here, they're in coconut coir slabs. They go through a 3-step process, getting planted into the smallest cube, and then they go up to the larger one, and then finally on the big slab. They're drip irrigated by 2 gallon per hour drippers. Each plant has their own dripper that comes on periodically throughout the day, depending on day length and sun and the size of the plant. And the fertigation system delivers all the nutrients they need. It's run away, so there's holes poked in the bag. So we try and irrigate what they need plus a little bit extra, and then the extra can drain off, and make sure we don't get too much salt in them. So last year I did loose coconut coir in pots and bags. The reason I went over to this is because when I factored in labor, it was a little bit cheaper because I didn't have to mix up coconut coir, and I also didn't have to transplant the tomatoes into the loose coconut coir. I was able to just plant into the plugs, set the plugs into the blocks, and then set the blocks on top of the slab. So it's a lot quicker and easier than doing it with loose coconut coir. So some of the upgrades coming up this year, in addition to what I've already done, is this spring I'm going to be adding a fertilizer injector system to my main tomato houses. This summer I'm going to be building a commercial cold storage, and then later on this fall I'm going to be installing overhead lights in this greenhouse so that we can run it all year long. So this stuff has been of interest to you. Stay tuned. Amy and Ruben are going to come back a little bit later in the year, and we're going to check out some more of my upgrades. So let them know if you have any questions.